The Dingers podcast is on the air. It's great to have you with us as we dive into the latest in Cubs baseball with Jake and Jeff by my side. We're ready to recap the ups and downs of a tough weekend with the Marlins and recapping all the way back to the Padres series. If you believe it or not, we lost all 3 games this weekend by a total of 3 runs. But don't worry, we're here to break down all the positive and negatives from this weekend. Remember, you can find us on YouTube. We're there live every Monday night at 8:30 on the On Tap Sports Network channel. Make sure you subscribe so you never miss an episode. And you can also find us on anywhere you want to listen to our podcast, anywhere you listen to them, podcast streams, whether it's Apple, Spotify, Google. I don't know where. Where do you listen to your podcast there, Jeffrey?
The Apple Podcasts.
Yeah, you can find us there.
Yeah.
Also, make sure that you are following us on Twitter at Dinger Cubs, where we love to engage in conversations with Cubs fans and our listeners. So join the conversation there. But I want to start out by, if you're watching on YouTube, I just got this in the mail. It's my K shirt from the 20 strikeout game from Kerry Wood that Jake designed and made because his dad was the guy who made the K signs in the stands. Actually just watched the documentary that the Cubs put out on that, and Jake was in that documentary that the Cubs put out. So thanks, Jake, for bringing these back. It's the first time back that these shirts have been in print in a long time, right?
Yeah, no, man. Thanks for the plug. So the shirts are back for the first time in over 10 years. My family did a short run of them around 2010. But yeah, this is the first time since then. I had been thinking about doing it for a long time, found an easy way to get shirts printed and out to people. And with the 25th anniversary of the 20K game coming up this weekend, I figured it was the perfect time to launch them. So we've got the original K shirts up right now. And then this week, for this week only, I'm running the backwards Ks, which hopefully you all know that means it's a strikeout looking as Ian Happ hits a home run live. We love to see that.
Hey, didn't we make a rule if your guy gets taken out of the game, his replacement, you get that dinger?
No.
Nice try.
That's my dinger.
I don't think it works that way. But yeah, if any of you are going to be at the game on Saturday, that's the 25th anniversary. We will be out there in left field with the original K signs. So hit us up. Otherwise, check out my website, jbanowski.com. It's the pinned tweet in my Twitter profile, so you can check it out there. At baseball_booge is my Twitter. And if you use the promo code DingersPod, all one word, you get 15% off. So again, the backwards Ks, my dad did a handful of them in the early 2000s. So I figured for the 25th anniversary is a good time to, do a re-release, and this will be it. This is the only time to get the backwards Ks. It's a quirky shirt. Only baseball fans will understand why it's backwards. But yeah, excited to have those out. And then I have another shirt that I did that just says 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out on the front by the chest, and then a more stylized K that I did on the back. So it's been cool. It's been a really good reaction. I'm really excited to go to the game this weekend. It's also my buddy Mike's 28th birthday. So shout out to Mike. We're going to be celebrating him and celebrating the greatest game ever pitched.
Yeah. I mean, they're great. They're sweet. I like the baby blue. Has the little red tape on the bat. Makes it pop. Love it. But they also do have colors like red, royal blue, black, I think navy blue.
Yeah, I appease the Sox fans. My dad wasn't anti-Sox, and I've got a lot of friends who are Sox fans. So we've got a black shirt. If you happen to be a fan of another team and you're listening to this and you want a shirt in that color, let me know and I'll get one to you. It was my dad's goal. It was his dream for the K to be the official K of Major League Baseball. So we don't discriminate. We don't hate on any specific team. We'd love to get, I say we, it's really just me. My aunts are loosely involved in it. So shouts out to Kim and Jan if they're listening. I know one of them listens sometimes. I'm getting off topic, but yeah, if you have a K shirt that you want a specific color of, hit me up on Twitter and I'll see what I can do for you.
Yeah, well, let's get into this weekend series. I mean, it's an incredible, frustrating series where we got swept by a grand total of 3 runs. Yes, you heard that correctly. 3 runs in total. Took down the Cubs in all 3 games, or 1 run in each game. 3 total. Yep. If the Cubs could have won even a single game, I think we would all probably felt a little bit better. But in turn, just like it's baseball, it happens. One ball bounce differently, one more strikeout, a hit here or there, and we could have walked away being the team that swept rather than getting swept.
Right.
But that's baseball. It happens. But one thing that we kind of run into was runners in scoring position, not being able to drive in those. Our pitching was still solid and strong. We're still putting the ball in play and scoring a lot of runs. So there's a lot of positives, some negatives as well. And we'll dive into that tonight. So Jake, what are your kind of takeaways from this weekend? Positive, negatives? What can we take away from this weekend?
Yeah, I think in the larger picture, what needs to be looked at is the 1-run deficit and the Cubs one run game record. I don't know what their record is off the top of my head, but I do know it was mentioned, I think during yesterday's game, that the Marlins were 9-0 in 1-run games. Yeah. That's not going to stay that way. If the Cubs were 9-0 in 1-run games, it's not going to stay that way. Like, of course, by the end of the season, for a team to be good, they have to have a winning record in 1-run games. I think by the end of the season, that's a statement made by a good team. Like, good teams are going to have more games where they win by 1 run than lose by 1 run. But you also want to see them winning by multiple runs, which the Cubs have been doing this season. It just is tough. I mean, look, they kind of faced a buzzsaw in Jesus Luzardo and Edward Cabrera. Jesus Luzardo has been a guy that's been on the brink of a breakout for like 3 seasons now. And it's really happening for him in Miami this season. And it showed against the Cubs. Yes, he gave up 2 runs, but that's ace level stuff. I think he had 6 strikeouts maybe against the Cubs team who has cut down on strikeouts. 6 strikeouts, 1 home run. I feel good. I mean, like, I feel good in the sense that, like, I think the Marlins are a little bit underrated. They came into the series at 500. And now there's 3 games above 500 because of the sweep of the Cubs. It sucks this early in the season. You would have liked to see the Cubs sweep that series, but I think the nice thing that we see is let's look at the Killian game. Caleb Killian gave up 7 runs. Was it 7 runs in 3 1/3?
Yeah, I think it was.
Let me double check this. I got it right here. Yeah, 7 runs, 10 hits in 3 1/3. And the Cubs, like, this offense worked their way back into the game and only
they were
lost
there
by
at the
1
end.
run. Yeah. So I think that game is the biggest takeaway. I think that's the microcosm for the month of April, is that people slept on this Cubs offense. As long as the pitching does their job, which they have been thus far, discounting Killian, this team is solid. I think yes, I've tweeted that the Cubs are good because they've shown flashes of being really good. And if they'd won 3 more 1-run games this season or this past month, we would say the Cubs are really good. I think they can get there. I think this series against the Nationals is a really good rebound series for them.
Yeah.
And so far, so good tonight.
Yeah. I mean, for me, like, you're right. The Marlins are good. Like, a team with Luis Ariz, like we were talking before we jumped on, like, I'm so impressed with him as a hitter. And it seemed like every game he came up clutch, setting up an inning for them to be able to score some runs. And it was always right after the Cubs put across, like, I remember Bellinger just hit a home run, and then Luis Ariz was up 3rd in the order for the Marlins the next inning, and they got a base hit, and then he had a double in the gap, and it was like, boom, like, they're up by 1 again. You're like, dang, gosh. So yeah, the Marlins are good, but there are some positive takeaways. We did put the ball in play. We did have a lot of base runners. We just couldn't push them across to score the runs that we needed.
Right. The runners in scoring position is a tough thing, and that's not going to stay that way with this team. We've seen it this season. that they've been better with runners in scoring position. I mean, I remember seeing in one game that like Nico's average with runners in scoring position was like 430. That's not going to stay that high. But then, you know, bases loaded on Sunday, I believe it was, and Nico was up and he didn't cash in. So again, we know that you're a stud in this game if you go 1 for 3, right? So I would hesitate to say that the Marlins are good, but I think they're sneaky. I think that they are better than people give them credit for, and I think they have a lot of good pieces in place. And you're going to see some moves by them. They've got a surplus of pitching, and I think they're going to make the moves that they need to in order to bolster their offense. But yeah, Luis Arias is something. Jazz Chisholm has happened to turn it on this series against the Cubs.
Yeah, and he was struggling K-ing a ton before.
I know and I think it's because he's taking on center field. So I think, you know, Haps talked about it in the past when he was bouncing around in the outfield. It was difficult for him to lock in at the plate. And I think that that's probably what was hurting Jazz to start the season, because Chisholm's a solid player that has potential to be very, very good. Just happened to have a good series against the Cubs, turned it on at the right time.
Yes, the Cubs were talking about leaving runners in scoring position. They were 4 for 27 with runners in scoring position this weekend. That's not going to win you very many ball games, let alone
pretty pitiful
series. But like, I think even like I was saying before, it's really easy for us as Cubs fans to overreact to getting swept early in the season, especially after we've been playing really good. And I think it's good and bad. Like, for us as Cubs fans to get this much invested in this team this early, this hasn't happened for a while. Like, we're mad because we believe that this team is good. We believe that this team could make the playoffs, where I think last year our anger would have been driven in a different way. The last couple of years, it would have been more frustrated because we've just been overly
it would have felt
angry.
They were faking us out.
Yeah.
Like in the last couple of seasons, it would have been like they would have gotten the wins in a different way that felt like it was being floated on something that wasn't sustainable.
Yeah.
But you're seeing this so far this season that I think it is sustainable. And I think, you know, I don't know if I'm jumping the gun here, but I think one of the reasons that it has been so far is Cody Bellinger. It's been talked about, it's been tweeted about. He is having a better month. He had a better month of April than he had, or like just about as good as any month in his MVP season. So whether or not that stays consistent throughout the rest of the year, who knows? But it's super encouraging what we've been able to see. And we talked about it in the preseason. For this team to be good, you needed Cody Bellinger to be good. And he has been.
Yeah. Like, what do you notice that's different in his swing? Like, if you were to look at it, like, Jeff, do you see anything that he's doing differently? I mean, we didn't watch a ton of Dodgers games before, but like, if you were to kind of see, like,
to me, it looks
enough
like
on Marquee.
Short and quick. Like he gets his hands through the zone fast. You know, he keeps them close to his body, and you blink an eye, you're going to miss the swing anyway. To me, that's what I've noticed about his swing. What it was like when he was struggling the last couple seasons as a Dodger. I don't know what it looked like, but I don't know. It just seems like he's confidence at the plate.
Yeah, like if you look at like his swing, like what I see is, one, he's standing up a little bit back like he did in his 2017 year, like when he was an MVP, right? He was standing up a little bit taller in the box. What I like even more so is his load. Like, he's loading and he's on time. And even if you, especially when you break down a swing and when he's finishing, a lot of times he was way out on his front foot with the Dodgers. He's way more balanced in the box and balanced enough to be able to hit off speed pitches. Like, I was looking at his Baseball Savant page today and looking at his whiff percentage on off speed pitches. in anything before 2022, his whiff percentage on off-speed pitches were like 35%. And right now on breaking ball pitches, it's down to 11.6. And on off-speed, he's whiffing at 11%, flat 11. So like you're seeing that timing better, and he's swinging and missing a lot less, and he's hitting those breaking ball pitches, but he's still on time to be able to hit the fastball. His percentage of being able to hit the fastball is 57%.
Yeah, they said that at the start of tonight's game that his strikeout rate is down from 27.2 to 16.4 this season. That's a ton.
Yeah, and that's I believe his MVP season it was 16.4.
Yeah.
So he's
Yeah.
The one thing that I've noticed too, and I don't know if this is something that he did before, but to steal a term from the 2016 rebuild, he's using his B hack at the plate. He's choking up.
Well, you saw even his first at bat tonight. Like, what do you do? Yeah. He was down
pitches,
and he punched him right through. There was no gap in the short bird, and he punched it right through.
Yeah,
it's like a exaggerated slap bunt to get her through there, but. So yeah, when he hit that was what, the 18th straight game he reached base.
Yep.
So then he stole a base and scored. So with 2 outs.
Yeah, manufacturer run because Sayad drove him in. Like that's like the type of Bellinger that we're getting this year. That's making a huge difference with this lineup of having him every day in either the 3 tonight or typically the 4 spot, 4-5. Like he's driving in runs. He's doing exactly what we need in this order to be able to manufacture runs. And it's everything is clicked so far offensively for the Cubs in this April/March time. Like you had Bellinger performing well. You had Dansby not striking out and putting the ball in play. Like all the things that we wanted to happen with the offense has been there for the Cubs. And that's something like Nico is performing what we couldn't even dream up a perfect leadoff hitter from what we've had the last couple of years. And Nico is providing exactly what we need, the spark to get the offense going. And so you have him getting on base. You have Dansby not striking out and driving in. You have Hap doing what Hap does the last 2 years of just putting the ball in play, getting RBIs. And then you have Bellinger behind him. Like that's a really good 1 through 5 in your order. That's going to scare some teams. Other teams don't have that at the top of their order. And so that's going to win us games, a ton of games. Now, if we can figure out a little bit down at 6, 7, 8 to be a little bit more consistent, like we're already one of the best offenses in baseball when you look at all the stats. If we can improve, and we have areas where we can improve, and it's down at the bottom or getting some consistency out there. I'm not asking like power. I'm just asking for some consistency. The one thing that does scare me down the road is if Bellinger got hurt, power out of the left side goes bye-bye because Hap hasn't provided a ton of power, only 2 home runs. So if Belly's gone from the left side, we're super weak. That's where the conversation would be brought up here of Mervis, but let's not talk about Mervis right now because I know a ton of people want Mervis and want morale up right away. And I get that, but let's wait for that conversation till later in the podcast. Do we have any more with Bellinger? Or let's go on to our next, like, Jeff, what was some positive takeaways or maybe some things that you want to touch on? I know you've brought up the bullpen usage and even with Fulmer a little bit. What were some things that you kind of took away from this weekend that might be positive or things that we could work on?
The biggest thing is consistency in the bullpen, consistency at the plate with runners in scoring position. We were just god awful this weekend at 4-27. Not being able to drive runs home. But it kind of feels like there's a couple of guys that are little confidence issues or something coming out of the arm barn. And I think that's kind of our weakest link right now is the shakiness in the arm barn. A positive takeaway is our starting pitching is really decent, and some of the guys that are pitching fabulous are kind of like Drew Smiley. His last couple starts has just been unbelievable. Marcus Stroman is much more improved, which, we have noticed with big free agent signings and pitchers, they usually start slow in Chicago and heat up. So he's pitching really well. Justin Steele, just amazing. But we got to figure out like the late inning guys and try to, lock some of these games up and quit losing games that we should be winning.
Yeah, the thing that I struggle with the bullpen is it seems like right now they don't know their roles. They're kind of just throwing in, like Alzolay will pitch either 6-7 or he'll pitch 8-9, and you just don't know. Like,
Right.
It does help when guys know their role and know what to expect. Like Keegan Thompson, like he's pitched a lot already.
Mm-hmm.
And that could come back to hurt us. We saw it last year with him. He struggled in September. And I think it was from a little bit of overusage. Like arms get tired over 162 if you don't pace it out. And so the overusage with Thompson and Alzolay, like right now, those seem like the only two guys in the bullpen that Ross really trusts. Whenever the heart of the order comes up for the other team in extra innings, it's those guys. Now, Fulmer has pitched well the last 3 outings, I think. I think he had an impressive frame yesterday, another scoreless. I think he's in 3 innings. He has 4 Ks and give up 0 earned runs. I think he's given up 1 hit and maybe 1 base on ball. Like, so Michael Fulmer moving out of that closer role has actually performed better, which I think it was a tough to put him even in the closer role, never being a closer, being a starter, reliever. And then the Cubs are throwing him in the closer role right away. And you could see the struggle there. You could see that he wasn't comfortable quite yet. Now his stuff plays. He could tell it wasn't as sharp as it was. And so that's why giving him a little breather, putting him in some non-high leverage situations, he's figuring it out. Now it's time for the Cubs to find out his role. What inning is he? Is he a 7? Is he an 8 guy? Like that's where he needs to fit in and they need to figure out. Same with like Boxberger. I'm kind of over Merriweather. Like I think he needs a breather, send him down and bring up somebody else. Like figure it out. Like I'm kind of over the whole Merriweather experiment right now. Just give him some time down the minors to figure some stuff out. But like at least solidify some roles. And like we've said from the very beginning, Jeremiah Estrada, I'm one that I'm ready to just like, he's going to be our closer. Just hand him the ball now. And let's like, if we're going to lose, let's lose looking at the future. Let's lose of like setting up a guy that is going to be possibly the closer the next 5 to 6 years for our team. So why not get him into that position now? See if he's the guy a couple times. If he's not, like, let him work through it for a couple weeks. We're letting Hosmer work through it for this long. Like I know where he's a veteran, but the same should be done with Estrada. Like, Jake, what's your thoughts on the bullpen?
So yeah, I think you covered a lot. And I think the first thing that I want to talk about is Fulmer. And you're right. His last few outings have been better. He had 1 blow up. Let me look at the game logs here really quickly. Before I pull up the game logs, well, actually that loaded pretty quick. So yeah, he's had 3 in a row, 3 scoreless outings, no hits, no runs, 3 innings, and 4 strikeouts. Before that, he had two rough outings.
And that was in the 9th, right? When he came in as a closer.
Yeah, I believe so. It doesn't list the game situation. Yeah, he lost against the Dodgers. He gave up 4 runs. So The one thing Sahada Sharma, I believe, talked about is that he's throwing a different cutter this year. And this is apparently he interviewed Michael Fulmer.
And the use of his cutter's way up.
Yes, so it's his primary pitch now over his four-seam fastball, and the cutter is breaking horizontally 2 inches more than it did last year. It's got a little bit more drop to it, a few more inches of drop, and he's throwing it almost a mile an hour faster. So it's a completely new pitch for him. And I think like one of the things that Fulmer, I guess, said was that he's kind of getting used to how that pitch moves still. So that could be something that we see, once he really gets the hang of that, which it looks like maybe in these last few outings, fingers crossed, he has been able to put it together. And yeah, I'm totally team Estrada for but I also I don't know. It's tough because if you can get value out of Fulmer and flip him at the deadline, like of course you want to do that. But I hope that it sets itself up in a way where it's like, okay, we have back-to-back save opportunities, right? 3 nights in a row. And the third night, Fulmer can't get it. So you put Estrada in there and say, go get him. But you talk about like getting the roles into place. And this is something that I feel like has been talked about at the beginning of the last few seasons. And the problem there is the turnover in the bullpen. We've signed these arms as kind of reclaim, retread projects for the last few seasons to try to flip them at the deadline. And it's worked really well. But this is the side effect of that is every April, it's like extended spring training for the bullpen where we're trying to figure out where everybody slots in. And I don't know if I talked about it last time I was on the pod, but I know it's been talked about in some capacity that Ross has straight up said that he doesn't know what Keegan and Alzolai's roles are yet because Keegan has problems going back to back. I believe Alzolai does, meaning back-to-back days. And they're trying to get Ross is trying to get both of them adapted to back-to-back days of work. So Scott says in the comments, Keegan for the 9th, Leiter and Alzolai can handle the long reliever role. But the problem is, like I just said,
Keegan can't do it every day.
Yeah, he can't handle the back-to-back workload yet.
And I'm not for Keegan Thompson being a closer. I kind of come around. I know earlier in the season we're like, yeah, let's try Keegan Thompson. I don't think he would thrive as much as we think he would if we only had him in the 9th. I think he's more beneficial to our team being able to pitch 1 or 2 innings when the heart of the order comes up in the 6th, 7th, 8th and you have to think he's a 5-pitch pitcher. Usually typically closers are 2 to 3 pitches.
Right.
And what does Jeremiah Estrada throw? 3 pitches, 4-seam, slider, changeup. And he has an absolutely filthy fastball. And I feel like for a closer, you need to have a guy that can throw some gas. Not that Thompson can't, but I think more beneficial to the team is him being able to pitch 2 innings and we get 2 innings out of him. And then you save Estrada and just pin him in the 9th.
Yeah. I mean, I think the other thing too about Thompson is he's in the 2% of walk rate. He's striking guys out at the same rate that he's walking guys, 19.7%. So his strikeout rate is down a few percentage points and his walk rate is more than doubled between last year and this year. So that's something that if he doesn't sort that out, that's going to bite him. And you'd rather have that be in a role, where he has a 3-run middle relief role or something like that versus 1 run in the 9th. And it's like, okay, well, automatically he's going to walk a guy because a 20% walk rate is outrageous. He only has 1 outing this year with no walks. And that was actually a 3 1/3 inning performance against the Reds, so good job there. But yeah, he's had 2 walks in 1, 2, 3 appearances, 3 of his 9 appearances. So he's got to figure that out. I was pro Keegan in like a closer high leverage role to start the season. I could see it. I think he has the mentality like that we've talked about, but I don't know. I mean, I think I'm kind of nervous. Like there's a little bit of blue on his baseball savant page. Blue is bad. Red is very good. And I just kind of want to see things even out a little bit before he were to get a high leverage appearance like that. I don't even know if that's going to happen. I don't know if he is going to get that opportunity. I actually think at this point, a lot of things would have to be going wrong with the bullpen for Keegan Thompson to get save opportunities.
I don't know. I just think people need to calm down a little bit. I mean, even though we're one game above 500, there's still things to fix.
Now.
2. Sorry. Yep. Sorry. We're 15-13. My bad. Don't worry. I'll hit myself with a switch at the end of the podcast. But it's really early in the season. There's a lot of games left to be played. And yeah, I'm just as irritated as a lot of our fans that we've lost some one-run games and games that we should have been winning. But when they figure out this bullpen issue of where guys are going to be playing, people also need to understand that the same guys that pitch the 6th, 7th inning on Monday are not going to be able to pitch the 6th, 7th inning on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday. It's just there's got to be other guys that are going to have to fill in here and there as guys need their rest. And yeah, we're going to have some nail-biting moments with some of these guys coming out of the pen. Just calm down. It'll be fine.
Jeff, you were a big math guy, weren't you, in high school?
Yeah.
You knew the Pythagorean theorem?
No.
Do you know the Pythagorean theorem of baseball?
No.
Well, it says right now that the Cubs should be 19-9. So it factors in runs scored and runs allowed, and then predicts base wins losses based on that. And so based on the runs scored and runs allowed, and then the standings, the Cubs should be 19-9.
Well, if you take the 3-run games from today, the 3 blown saves by Fulmer plus the 1 hold 2 holds. I mean, we're way better than 19-9.
Yep.
It's baseball, people.
But it just shows like it is baseball. Sometimes we're just not lucky. Like I don't believe in luck, but like sometimes the ball just doesn't bounce our way, or sometimes like, and that's where it comes down to like, I remember my dad over and over in high school baseball telling me like the difference between us winning games and losing games against the better teams was usually 1 or 2 mistakes. Like one ground ball that you read wrong and just barely misses your glove and they win by 1 run. That was that one mistake, that one tiny little thing. And it was just a bad read. And like, or one walk, like just one small thing in a game can play the factor of wins and losses. And so that's what it says right now with the Cubs. They're kind of unlucky. Like we should be 19-9, and we very well could be. We could be where the Pirates are. And you're looking at like the Pirates, how did they get there? It's because they've done the one little small thing that's made a difference in them winning ball games. And that's why they're in first place. But that's why we play 162 and we don't play just to April. We play all 162 because it's going to shake out eventually. And hopefully the way we're playing, we continue, and those wins and losses kind of even themselves out over the course of 162.
Yeah. I still can't believe what's going on with the Pirates.
Yeah. I mean, they're fun to watch. They look like they're having a ton of fun.
I just like, I'll put it this way.
Maybe we need a rain out.
There have to be hardcore Pirates fans out there, and I feel good for them.
There has to be.
I'm happy. Huh?
There has to be hardcore. But seriously, yeah. I mean, how many years did it go before they made the playoffs?
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy for Pirates fans right now. But I just like you said, Mitch, like I wonder what their Pythagorean record is. Like, I wonder if it's worse than what they have, the actual record.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Jeff.
No, you go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, I look up and down their roster, and it's like, where is this coming from? Like, Jack Sawinski's lighting the world on fire. I don't know if that's gonna sustain.
See, that's a Pittsburgh name.
Yeah, like he's an Illinois native. If you watched any of the games last year against the Cubs Pirates, they wouldn't stop talking about it.
Woo, I've been to Pittsburgh. It's a great blue collar sports town.
Hey, a fellow Cole just like me.
They love their sports in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
I mean,
Black,
it doesn't
black
matter.
and yellow, baby.
Doesn't matter how bad they are. They're going to show up. And of course they have to, because they saw him in the postseason in 92 and then didn't get to see him in the postseason again to what, like 2 seasons ago?
They have like Vince Velasquez, like the zombie of Vince Velasquez is having an incredible season. I don't know, man.
It's PEDs.
I just like, now it makes me nervous for when we face them next. Like, whatever. I did say to some guys, so I work for Milwaukee Tool Company. So obviously most of my coworkers are Wisconsinites, Wisconsin sports fans.
Brewers.
Yeah. And so one guy I made a lunch bet with this past season. So I bet that the Bears would beat the Packers. I lost. I bought lunch for us. I'm surprised you didn't take me up on a lunch bet. I said by the end of May, the Cubs will be better than the Brewers. Now, I did that without looking at the Brewers' record or the Brewers' upcoming schedule. We kind of talked about it before the show. The Cubs' upcoming schedule is a doozy.
It's a gauntlet.
We got the team that I want to highlight, actually, because I went to one of their games. Went to Target Field this past weekend. Target Field is beautiful. I said to my buddies, though, a couple of my friends I was with are huge Cubs fans, and I was talking to them about it. I said, it doesn't feel like a ballpark. We were sitting in the outfield. It feels more like a social, like congregating space than a ballpark, but beautiful. Like if you have the opportunity to go, absolutely go to Target Field. But that said, the Twins are one of the 7 teams I think that we play in May, and the Twins are leading the NL Central. They've got good pitching. Yes, the AL Central. Thank you. I hope they're not leading the NL Central.
You want me to list the other teams? So they play the Marlins again here after the Nationals. Then they play their first series versus the Cardinals. Then it's the Twin series. Then they play the Astros, Phillies, Mets, Reds, and Rays. That's kind of the gauntlet right there to run through. Really, the only team that's really struggling, the Reds. Mets have kind of turned it around a little bit. Like
they get Verlander back soon.
Yeah.
So that's I mean, it's not going to be easy. And it's going to be one of these months where when we had that month, I guess in 2019? When was the sell-off? 2021. So it was like when we had that month in 2021 where it was like, okay, that whatever 19 game stretch or whatever where we just sucked. And that was the season. You guys know that I'm ever the realist on this podcast. And I want Cubs fans to be prepared. Like May could be really tough. And it's not like, Jeff, you mentioned earlier that we got warmer weather coming. I mean, Madison is always like a few degrees within Chicago. And today it was like 40 degrees and sleeting. So there's no guarantee, as Chicagoans know, there's no guarantee that there's going to be good weather in May. So don't bank on sunny, warm days where the ball is going to be flying and it's going to be easy baseball to play. We could have some more cold weather amongst, these good teams, competitive teams that we're playing. And I think the fact that we have to cap it off against the Rays, so we've got to make it through all of those teams just to play the Rays, the best team in baseball right now.
Well, if the White Sox can beat the Rays yesterday, we can beat the Rays.
Hey, flukes happen, man.
Even a blind hog finds a truffle every now and again.
Yeah,
but I think it's gonna be good though. Like this will be a good month because this will be one where it'll let us know who our team really is. Like, like when we look at like who they've played, like the Texas series, we thought the Texas and Seattle, like that stretch was going to be a tough little stretch, and we went 4-2 in that stretch, and then we had the Dodgers right after that, and we took 3 or 4 from there. So like we've been playing pretty good. The Padres series, we took 2 of 3 from the Padres, and the Padres are probably going to win the West.
We could have swept that second Dodgers series.
Yeah, we played good against good teams, and so like it kind of has built some confidence. Like we are good, but this month will tell us a lot of who we are. And hopefully, like we figure out this bullpen situation. And I will say, Cody Hoerner, he's going to be knocking on the door, not in the month, but by the end of the season, he's going to be back. And he's going to be a fun one to watch. He had a bullpen session, kind of like a simulated game over the weekend in the extended spring training. He struck out 3 batters, the only 3 batters he faced, all swinging. So it wasn't like looking, he was blowing them away. Now this is like rookie league guys, but it's good that he's back on the mound throwing the ball, and all reports are that he's responded well from his one simulated game, or one game that he actually got to pitch in live batter. So like, look at like June, August, that's like a trade piece, getting him back to solidify and put in that bullpen. That's a guy that you can trust down there. So like, it's only gonna make our team better. And that I know we spent a lot of time talking about the bullpen, but like, just wanted to get that out there, because I saw that, and that, like, I love Cody Hoerner. That was the one piece in that trade that I think why we won the Kimbrel trade is because I think he's going to be great in the bullpen in the future for the Cubs. And I want to see him back in pinstripes soon in the friendly confines. So yeah.
It's also worth noting Kyle Hendricks has his second rehab assignment tomorrow, rehab game tomorrow. The
first outing did not go well, but did you see his velo?
Yeah. He touched 90.
I think that's what the takeaways were, is even though the results weren't that great as far as hits, runs, whatever, he didn't experience any pain and the velocity is up.
I think his velo he hit like 93 in one of his pitches.
I don't know. Maybe. I mean, I heard on the broadcast today, Taylor McGregor said something about 90. I don't know if I don't think he was averaging. I don't know. But I think it's important to note, like, that's his first spring training game against guys who'd been playing for 2.5 months.
Yeah.
So, and the Reds AAA team, the Bats, they got some studs on that team, and they showed out. Christian Encarnacion Strand and Ellie De La Cruz are on that team, and I'm missing the third guy. Like, they've got good offensive players on that team.
So is that Farms team the one that's in first place in the International League that the iCubs are in? Because the iCubs are in second with a record of 16-8.
Let's see.
And those boys down there have been putting up some runs. I will flash this because we can talk a little bit now. Just because I saw on Twitter that Jake got into it with some people about Mervis and Morel. Christopher Morel in 23 games in AAA has 11 home runs, 28 RBIs, a 363 batting average, 463 OBP, an 835 slug, and a 1.298 OPS. That's fire. Like,
he's lit.
That is some good stuff. But I know there's people out there that want Mervis up right now, and they want Eric Hosmer gone. And Jake, your tweet was like,
okay, let me explain this. I had to delete the tweet, and the reason why was because
you should have kept it. Stand by.
Here's why I deleted the tweet, because I didn't word it correctly. And it was a Sunday night. I was trying to enjoy a Sunday night with my wife, and I was getting shit on Twitter. Not for my opinion, but for like putting out an argument. Like, okay.
I read it how you wanted it. I think I took it like, I was like, oh yeah.
I was trying to rationalize. Like, I was trying to get into the mind of the Cubs front office. Nobody who responded negatively to that tweet is probably listening to this podcast right now. But for the record, I was trying to figure out why the front office has not called up Mervis. And I said, and this was Sahadev Sharma put out a post about this like a week and a half ago or a week ago. And basically he was saying it's instilling good, giving up on Hosmer already could hurt them in free agent negotiations going forward. And a lot of what people said in response was like, well, good. We don't want a bum like Hosmer. And maybe not Hosmer, right? Like, I agree. I would much rather have Mervis on this team than Hosmer. Sorry, Hos. Doubt you're listening to this podcast. Don't give a shit about your feelings. You probably don't either. You want to be
fucking Dale.
Well, we got to put an explicit label on this one, boys. I don't think, like, yes, Infield Fly Girl came at me and she was right. She said,
Infield Fly Girl.
She's got like 6,000 followers on Twitter, so she has a big following, and she's done stuff with, I think, Danny Rocket and those guys. But she pointed out that, like, I don't want Hosmer on this team. So if we have more free agent to go, if we lose out on free agents like Eric Hosmer, like other people's trash, so be it. Now the caveat is this. There could be other cast-offs like Cody Bellinger, like Jock Peterson. You know, there could be veterans who just need a chance. Just need a month's worth of games to show, like, no, I can still do this and be valuable to a team. Hosmer, defensively, Hosmer's been fine from what I can see, or better than fine. But offensively, yeah, it sucked. That's kind of what we expected going into this. But we don't know. None of us work in a Major League Baseball front office. And even today, I listened to On the Waveland, and Sahadev, like, didn't go into it because I'm pretty sure he got flamed on Twitter too for the first one giving this take. But he basically said on the podcast was like, it's more nuanced than just cutting ties with Hosmer. Like, there's more that goes into it. And
I think because it's Hosmer, like, he has good relationships with a lot of major league players. He's played around
a ton.
Yeah. And he's respected throughout the game. Like, so he's not only just a veteran, he's a guy that, like, I think a lot of baseball players like. I think he connects with a lot of different baseball players throughout baseball. So if you did cut him like this, I think it would hurt the Cubs in the long run. Now, I think, will he be on the team, or will he be a starter come August? No.
I don't think he'll be a starter come mid-May. Yeah. Like, Mervis is going to be up.
Yep.
Mervis is going to be up soon. And I think, did Scott say it in the comments? Mervis and Morel to Chicago for the Cardinals series. #book it. Yeah. I think that's a pretty fair prediction to make with the way that they're playing. And the team, despite the outcome tonight, it's the Nationals. Like, you need a spark plug against this Cardinals team, despite how they've played thus far this season, because coming into Wrigley Field, because it's a home series, coming into Wrigley Field, this Cardinals team wants to stick it to the Cubs. They have this series circled on their calendars, every one of them, especially Wilson, and they want to come in and beat the shit out of us. You want to have guys like Morel, and hey, what's the emotional play of Morel coming up and facing Contreras? Like, that's like, there's a storyline there too. So yeah, I think, and Scott says Hosmer and Mancini have not been trashed. They have been okay, but the upside of Morel and Mervis should trump them. And I agree. I mean, obviously Mancini signed to a 2-year deal, and Mancini has played better in the last couple weeks. Yeah. I like Trey Mancini, at least as a complimentary piece, for the next year and a half or 2 seasons, I guess we've got.
I'm going to die laughing tomorrow when Yan Gomes hits the IL and the Cubs sign Torrance back, and watch people lose their mind tomorrow on Twitter. Like, I would, I actually want that to happen a little bit, just to see the crazies on Twitter go nuts. But, like, looking at the roster, like, if you're going to free up a spot, like, and I put it out, like, if Edwin Rios went 0 for yesterday, would that be the last straw? I don't think that yesterday was the last straw. I think they're going to give him 1 or 2 more opportunities to see if he can perform. And if he can't perform, then they're going to option him and find a place for him. I don't know if he has any options left. I can't remember if he has one option left or if he's done. So
I don't know.
But like, I think they're going to give him one or two more chances.
It's just hard. I think it's hard for players to get in a groove if you're not an everyday player.
Totally.
You play 3 or 4 days, and then they kind of give you a break, and maybe you come in and pitch hit.
And that's why I think they haven't brought up a Morale and a Mervis, because they can't give him that everyday spot because you have Wisdom performing, and you have Mancini. Like, you have people that are performing, and I think I think the reason why you're seeing, especially Morale, do so well down there is because he knows he's going to be in the lineup every single day. He can show up, be himself, and just perform and just play ball and just ball. Right.
Oh, yeah.
And when with the Cubs, he's going to play once every 3 days or maybe get a pinch hit, and the uncertainty. Yeah. I mean, we're all creatures of habit. We want to like get into a habit forming like in our day. And baseball players too, they want that habit. It's a special breed of player that can play once every 3 days and perform, or just be a pinch hitter. Like, those guys are special dudes. Like, you have to give them props, like for the Matt Stairs of the world. You can drop that name from back in the day.
You can throw the old, like the AL DHers, the guys that just, they're not in the flow of the game. When they're not out on the field playing defense with their teammates, they're usually in the cage hitting some balls. But
then they get into a routine of that. They get in their own little routine, and
that's their deal. But I think some of like Mervis not coming up and Morale is remember how Haps has started out so hot and had just a spectacular season. Then they had that huge kind of a slump that sophomore season or whatever, and they had to send him down, and he got some stuff figured out. Maybe the Chicago front office is like, let's not do that to another kid.
Totally. I think you're totally right, Jeff. And that's something that I've talked about. Like, I don't want young players rushed to the major leagues just because, like, there's a lot in recent years. Like, you can look at people like players like Joe Adell and Jared Kelenic. Even this year, like Gunnar Henderson for the Orioles, like guys who are top, were top prospects, but are struggling or have struggled in the major leagues. Like, just because Morel is tearing the cover off the ball, and Mervis for that matter, are tearing the cover off the ball in AAA right now, doesn't mean that it's going to translate to the big leagues, and not immediately. And even if it does, like it did for Morel last year, we saw that wore off. Like, pitchers figured him out, and he started striking out more and making poorer quality contact. Now, of the two of them, I have more faith in Mervis because as a hitter, he profiles way differently. He's more contact first. He's more patient at the plate. I do think you can get, especially if Rios and or Hosmer are no longer on the team, you can get Mervis pretty much every day at bats. Like, whether it's DHing or playing first base, you can get him every day at bats. It's going to be more difficult for Morel. Like, I do think Morel, it may take an injury. It may take a Wisdom injury or a Wisdom slump for Morel to be called up and get more everyday type, more consistent playing time. But that's a great point, Jeff. Yeah, I don't want guys to be brought up too soon. And I guess the one thing that you could say against that point is, like, neither of these guys are really considered top prospects. They're not Chris Bryant's, they're not Pete Crow Armstrongs, so on and so forth, right? So it's, if these guys don't develop at the rate that you would expect a number one prospect to develop at, it doesn't hurt the team. I think from these guys, especially Morel, like, anything you can get from him is a cherry on top. And I know I've talked about it before. We've talked about it in multiple episodes, but the best case scenario probably for Christopher Morel is a Chris Taylor type player with maybe a little bit more power. So a utility guy can play anywhere on the field, bat anywhere in the lineup, and be successful. But yeah, I mean, it's time. It's time for the roster shakeup. You wonder how things may have gone differently this weekend had one or both of those guys been up. I don't know. You know, you obviously you can't say for sure. But yeah, people have been clamoring for both of those guys to be up all season, and I agree now. It's time for them to be up here. And like I said, I would say Mervis first because there's a clearer path to playing time for him. I think if Morel could learn how to play first base, then boom, then you bring him up. But yeah, I don't know. And that leads me to I have an insane wish list item that I want to get into tonight. If you guys don't mind.
Sure, go right ahead. As long as it's good stuff.
I think it's good stuff.
I'll be the judge of that.
All right, Jeff, hear me out. Hear me out. It's only been 1 month, but if by the end of May, Cody Bellinger is still producing at this rate, it's not going to happen, but the Cubs, it's like there is a 1% chance of it happening, but Cody Bellinger, contract talks need to happen at the All-Star break. And I say that because you have a guy who has track record of being successful. If you see that the metrics, if he's able to get back to the metrics that he was showing in his MVP and Rookie of the Year campaigns, he's only 27 years old right now. He plays Gold Glove defense in center field. He can play first. He can play any outfield spot, and he can play first base at above average, at above replacement level. He's the left-handed power bat who's patient at the plate that the Cubs need. It seems like one of those situations where like you sign the guy and then worry about the minor league pieces when they force you to worry about it.
Yep.
I love Pete Crow Armstrong. I absolutely love Pete Crow Armstrong. I also really like Matt Mervis, but I am definitely one who's more for the prospect pedigree, a guy who's been talked about. And Pete Crow Armstrong has more of that pedigree, whereas Mervis just kind of came on the radar last season. Now, granted, I know that's also because of his being a part of the 2020 abbreviated draft. He would have been drafted had it been more than 5 rounds. I think people said he would have been a 6th rounder. He would have been in the next round even. But I think if you can set up a situation where Cody Bellinger is retained on this team as the center fielder or the first baseman, whoever forces their hand as the starter to take the other position in Pete Crow Armstrong or Matt Mervis, you take them. I would prefer Pete Crow Armstrong. And then what I would really love to see is whichever prospect is, whose spot is blocked by Cody Bellinger. This isn't going to happen. It's a ridiculous wish. But whatever prospect is blocked, you trade them. And Mervis, because he's a first baseman, you probably have to trade him and another piece or two even for a young third baseman. And the team is locked. The team is locked up. Like it's that close, I think. At least offensively and defensively, it is that close.
I tell you what, if you were rubbing a lamp to make this wish, you'd have to keep rebooting the lamp.
I mean, I like it. Like I have had that thought too of like, okay, if you can get Cody Bellinger back in performing, the tough thing would be if he fell back into like if another injury happened and he falls back into a thing. But like injuries could happen to Pete Armstrong, injuries could happen to Mervis. Like you never know. An
injury happened to Brendan Davis last year.
Yeah. Yep. So like you never know. And even like this, like I know Bellinger's going to be looking for a bigger contract, especially if these numbers keep panning out.
Right.
He's going to be wanting 5 years, 7 years, your deal. Maybe 5, 4. I don't know.
He's going to want as many years as he can get. But what's the market going to give him after he had all those down seasons?
Right.
But the thing that the Cubs have is they can talk to him right now. Like they have the first to be able to negotiate. And I would be one where let's slide him to first base. And that's where he could DH and Mervis could flip back and forth and get Pete Crow Armstrong out there. Like that's where you're kind of doing what they did this year with Hosmer and Mancini, but you would just be doing it with Bellinger and Mervis and going back and forth, lefty, righty, for defense.
Yeah.
But like you could play that out a little bit and it adds another left-handed power bat, getting both of them in the lineup. So yeah, I like your thoughts. I like where you're going with that.
Look, it's completely far-fetched. I need to say that I know that the odds of it happening are slim to none, but it makes a lot of sense, especially considering Hayward's contract comes off the books after this season. I think Hendricks is a free agent after this season.
We still got to pay that guy.
Yep, we're paying him to hit bombs for the.
He almost hit a home run against us.
He's playing really well in Los Angeles right now,
and he has like the highest exit velo in all of baseball, like average.
Yeah, it's not awesome, not awesome.
But he still has his numbers don't show that he's doing well, but he's hitting the ball hard.
Right.
It's just right
at the second baseman.
Second baseman or the left fielder. He's peppered
105-mile grounders to the second baseman.
He has hit quite a few really hard hit balls to the left fielder, like right at him, like line drive shots. Because I've watched some of their games. But
nice.
We're an hour in. Jeff, do you have You Can't Fix Stupid?
No, I actually I did not find the I Can't Fix Stupid. Let me tell you, when you search on the internet for people doing stupid stuff, you get 9 billion videos of people like lighting their asses on fire. So I don't know. I gotta work on my Google searching. But I just like to say that the Dingers pod code does work for the K shirts. I ordered 2 at the beginning of the episode.
I saw that. Thank you.
That's what I was doing on my phone, Mitchell. I got a backwards K and a regular K.
Ooh, I like it.
Yeah.
Like it. Yeah. So get yourself a K shirt. The 25-year anniversary is Saturday. Jake's going to be out there.
At the old ball game.
The old ball game. But yeah, thanks for listening. Again, follow us on Twitter at Dinger Cubs and make sure you're subscribed to the On Tap Sports Network YouTube channel. But that does it for episode 117. Thanks for listening and go Cubs.
Go Cubs. Go.